you were caught completely off guard by Chappell and you resolved yourself to not miss out on the next big thing that music has to offer. Let's talk about Frances Whitney. And even if you didn't miss out on Chappell Roan, if you like music, especially music that involves a voice and a guitar, I'm sure that Frances Whitney has something to offer to any of you out there. In this video, I'm going to not only introduce Frances Whitney and give you some factoids about her, but also introduce all of her songs that are presently available on streaming, both on her official account and her unofficial account. And we're going to discuss each. And now she does have both of these accounts, but I do have a single playlist that I keep updated that has all of her currently available songs on Spotify, so you can go listen to it here. If you want to be able to find it on Apple Music or YouTube Music, just let me know in the comments and I can create playlists over there too. These are just going to be brief introductions to each song. If you want me to do a deep dive on any of the songs in particular, just let me know down in the comments. I would be happy to talk about Frances Whitney and any of her songs at length with you all. So Frances Whitney was born on January 28th, which makes her an Aquarius sun, Aquarius moon, and a Gemini rising. When I found that out, I told her that she sounded like she was messy in the best possible way, and I love her for that. And the song that many people now know her from is Left Me for Jesus, and because that's the song that I think her management probably would like me to discuss the most, I'm going to discuss that first. This song has me so excited about her EP that is tentatively supposed to be out in like roundaboutish November, because this is one of the first songs that has actually gotten the full professional polish of her current like team and management and everything like that, and it sounds so good. And I think Left Me for Jesus really focuses, especially at first, on this kind of like light, ethereal quality that her voice can have when she really wants it to. I love that Frances can do a lot of different things with her voice and that she's got a lot of control over her voice. She can be very light, very delicate, and then she can come in with these like deep, dark, lower register vocals that are just like incredibly gripping and incredibly strong. And I just love watching the different ways that she uses her vocal instrument. And I especially think for this song, which very much comes off as emotionally vulnerable, that coming in with those very kind of tender vocals is really great decision making. I love Close the Slide Door, right? It sounds cool. And maybe this is just like the California in Frances showing versus me being a Marylander, and that's a sliding glass door, you know? I would never necessarily call it the slide door, but God, does that sound way cooler. And I also think in songs, one of the things that is a skill that takes time to get good at is making things simple in a way that continues to get the point across without seeming like childishly simple. And I think if you miss the mark, you get albums like Katy Perry's 143, where the lyrics are like simple. There's like no undercurrent of deeper meanings, and it's like it's not saying anything deep or profound with those simple words. Whereas Frances is really good at saying deep and profound things in like very deceptively simple ways. She has so many like one-liners from her songs that just make me like, I'm going to need to think about that for a while. Later, she says, in Porch Light, I fear I don't know you anymore. And this is one of those times where she said something that is deeply relatable, obviously, to something in her own life. But how many of us have been in a situation where either the person we were seeing was dropping us off at the end of the night, or maybe it was the end of the party and everyone else had already left, and in the porch light, you're seeing this person by a different light because it is just them alone, raw, unfiltered. And it hit me because, like, I think if you've had a decent number of relationships, like if you've had more than a couple relationships, you probably have a moment that when you hear that, in Porch Light, I fear I don't know you anymore, you're thinking somebody's name immediately, or you're thinking about a circumstance or a time when you felt that way. And if you haven't felt it like personally, it is such a relatable experience that you can think of times that it happened in television shows. I'm sure a lot of people can think of times right now that important romantic scenes between people happened like under the porch light, and it was like under the light of the porch light that the true person, the true mask fell off and the person underneath was revealed. The line that she used most prominently in a lot of the advertising for this song, I left New York half because of you, but nobody knows that. Nobody knows that I'm your favorite hobby, your favorite body, you're my favorite sorry.
I left New York half because of you, but nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. I'm your favorite hobby, your favorite body, you're my favorite sorry.
This is one of those times when I say that she's using words that are deceptively simple to say something that is incredibly deep. Again, these are scenarios that, like, even if you weren't necessarily leaving New York, I can relate. I left Virginia half because of you. I also love the specific choice of the words. Your favorite hobby, your favorite body. These are not serious. These are not intense. These are not focused. These are just very like ephemeral, happy, fun time pursuits. These are not him valuing her as somebody that is deep and important and meaningful to his life. And then she goes and turns it around and says, you are my favorite, sorry. And we've got the switching up of the different types of your to kind of keep the line feeling like it has the same flow, but we've switched to your as in his perspective to your as in you are her perspective. He is her favorite apology to say. And then the line, born again season, giving yourself to Jesus, and I'm the reason. You can't take me with you. You found a new meaning. One day I'll find forgiveness. So first off, I think it's really interesting that ostensibly her muse is pursuing Jesus. Frances has now said that Jesus was actually another girl. This was a lie that he told her. But I do think that especially when you grow up in some sort of church purity culture, that a lot of times you are in these situations where, especially if you're dating other people who grew up in this purity culture, that the things that you do in relationships, the sins that you commit in relationships, can make them feel a certain type of guilty. And I have had significant others that have left me for Jesus. And I know that, like, I've sent this song to a couple of the friends that I grew up with that went to Catholic school together. And, like, from that level, it's very relatable to people who grew up, especially, like I said, Catholic Church, Mormon Church. A lot of my friends grew up in this kind of structure and had an early relationship where the person knee-jerked and was like, no, I'm leaving you for Jesus. And so often, Jesus ends up being another person. Like, this is a canon event for so many people, especially, like I said, who are part of like Catholic school kid groups. And I love this concept about how he's ostensibly seeking forgiveness, because a lot of times that's what Christianity tells you that you go to Jesus for. You go to Jesus for forgiveness for your sins. And then she turns it around at the end of the verse and says, one day I'll find forgiveness. Like, the person whose forgiveness you should actually be seeking, you should actually be pursuing, is Frances's.
Born again season, giving yourself to Jesus, and I'm the reason. You can't take me with you. You found a new meaning. One day I'll find forgiveness.
But enough about Lefty for Jesus. Like I said before, if you want to hear more about it, let me know down below and I'll do an entire video on it. I'm going to intersperse factoids in between every song discussion. So fact number 1, Frances actually has a dog named Daisy who I believe lives with her parents currently, and her old songs are actually under a Spotify account called Daisy the Dog. These are the songs that she released before she was with her current record label. They're not going to be on her EP, but these are some of the most like sapphic yearning, sapphic pining type songs that she has. Now, Frances hasn't explicitly stated her orientation. She has stated that she is queer, and there are songs of hers that have a female muse, and there are songs of hers that have a male muse. So like I said, in many ways, she has something for everyone, regardless of your interests. Before we discuss the song Orion, I just want to give everybody the trigger warning that this song discusses a friend who has intense depression and intense desires to end their own existence. If that's something that's not for you today, just skip to this timestamp. One of her songs about a female muse is Orion. This is a song that is on her Daisy the Dog profile, and a lot of us believe that this is one of her best songs. It is definitely her best song currently available on Spotify, but some of the songs that we have gotten previews of for the EP are definitely going to knock it down a peg, I think, in my mind. I'm definitely going to do an entire video on Orion because there's an entire story and so much lore behind that song. But the general gist is that Frances was away overseas and a friend of hers was depressed, like capital D, sadder than sad, never been more depressed. And she wrote this song about how helpless that she felt and how she was trying to do anything that she could, but she was literally an entire planet away from this other person. Now, when Frances wrote this song, it was ostensibly about a friend, right? But part of this process of realizing how deep she felt was also part of the process of realizing that this is not actually a song about a friend. This is a song about somebody that she has deep romantic feelings for, and that being away from her when she was in her time of need was what really forced her to confront the fact that she had deep romantic feelings for this friend. And I think because of that, this song gloms on especially well to us sapphics, especially us messy sapphics who might have realized a little bit later, who might have realized because one of our friendships was a little bit more than a friendship one day, and we're like, wow, where did that come from? I also think it resounds well with both people that are mentally ill and people that are caretakers and lovers of people that are mentally ill, because I think as a person who is mentally ill, I have been desperate for somebody who loved me enough to be like, I will fly to LA if it is what it takes to make you happy. Because my perspective from dating, toxic men has largely been, you need to go to therapy. You have too many anxiety attacks and things like that. It has not been, I will fly to LA and I will say whatever it takes. I will say I love you in whatever way it takes, just so long as you stay with me, you stay on this planet. So I definitely think that there is an extra level of resonance for us messy, mentally ill sapphics, of which I'm sure there are none of them following me. Me attract messy sapphics? Never. In films, there's often this concept of show, don't tell. Like, you don't want to just give a bunch of expositional dialogue. You want to show the audience so they can, care and come along on the journey and not feel like they're just being info dumped to. And in music, there's something a little bit similar. Obviously, you can't show them, but you can use symbols and you can use metaphors and imagery and things like that to get your point across. Like, telling an audience in a song of this caliber would be something like, oh my God, my best friend's so sad, I don't even know what to do, I feel so helpless. But when she says it, she said the meds ain't doing their job and that she's miserable. Like, if you've been there, you've been there. And it connects. It's a story that is being told instead of a factoid that is being presented. And that subtle difference in how she writes and how she simplifies her writing is what makes her writing so good. And watching streams of hers where she's just been dabbling around with music and playing around and stuff like that, just her gift with words and knowing which words to use is just, it seems so very intuitive to her. And this song is one of those songs that really starts out deceptively simple and builds. It really builds to a quite effective crescendo. In the end, when she's saying, I'm so little staring up at you, and when you know that the muse's name is Orion, it is not just Frances is staring up at Orion in the sky. Frances feels like she is so little and that she is looking up at Orion in her beauty and her glory and her power. And this perfectly articulates this paradox that happens in mental illness, right? Where this person is so desperate to end their own existence, and yet everyone around them is like, oh my God, you are a star shining in the sky. You're masterful. You're wonderful. You're incredible. It just goes to show how much that cognitive dissonance of mental illness can really be there. It can really take away from you. Even when you have somebody in your life who loves you and who values you and cherishes you and stuff like that, it sometimes isn't enough. And then, my words are falling short, but your odyssey ain't through. And however striking, your supernova would make us blue. Oh my gosh, as someone who is often the therapist friend, I wish I could tell you anything that would make you feel better, but there is no magic word. My words are falling short. And then just using a star going supernova as a metaphor for her friend ending their own existence and the blueness that would strike others. And it's just so good. I could talk about this song forever.
My words are falling short, but your odyssey ain't through. And however striking, your supernova would make us blue.
Factoid number 2. The reason that Frances says, I'll fly to LA in Orion is because she was actually living in Greece playing professional volleyball. She has a ton of skills. She was good enough to play volleyball professionally, and now she's also good enough to be a musician professionally. But anyway, she was a setter, and she was playing for a professional team, like I said, in Greece. So with Still Have July, we're moving back to the regular Frances Whitney account on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever you're using. This is her second to most recent single. I love this song because it's yet another great example of how she uses imagery and metaphors and things like that to just really set a scene, set an image. Sharp glass, barefoot, bloodied up your nickname. We have all joked about not knowing exactly what this line means. Frances has compared it to when a friend does something and it's so memorable that it becomes an inside joke and that friend gets a nickname off of it. I have joked that the friend's nickname was previously Soul, S-O-U-L, and that it could possibly become S-O-L-E, Soul, after this. But that's just my joking interpretation. It's not an official one. I also love the delivery of these lines. The way she says sharp glass barefoot and the way she says wet-haired, tangled, swimming in the rain, it just sets this imagery of having fun with your friends, at the beach or whatever, in the middle of the summer. And it's perfect for this song, obviously, Still Have July. And I love that it kind of is coming from a similar perspective as the song Casual. Like, this is someone who is in a situationship who would like to be in a relationship. And she is in a situationship with somebody who is kind of treating it more like a relationship, and that is giving her confused feelings in her head. In this song, I really love the line, "Are you not impressed by the way I drive you away so I don't have to say what I don't want to say?" Because been there, done that. And then, "Call a car, call a spade, don't call me a friend." That is, it's such a good dismissive line. It's like, oh, we're not like official, we're not dating? Okay, call my car, call a spade, don't call me a friend, I'm out. This also has like one of my favorite ekuleleas in it. There are a ton of Frances Whitney ekuleleas, so if you're in the autism crew, you're gonna love her. Try hard, play coy, Laurel Canyon fanboy. I'm probably going to make shirts that say that because I'm so obsessed with the phrase. And I just love how this has a very like upbeat, everybody says like song of the summer, and I don't like that saying, but you know, it's the one that everybody uses. But it definitely has that like song of the summer type vibe.
Try hard, play coy, Laurel Canyon fanboy. You're not sly, but you're not mine. We're choking on goodbye. Oh, I miss every word that leaves your lips.
Factoid 3. Before she played volleyball professionally, she played at the college level at Yale, and she was like incredibly good. And like I said, that just goes to show like how well-rounded of a talent she is. And some of her volleyball accolades are on the screen for those of you who know volleyball and care about that stuff. While at Yale, she was also a member of the Unorthodox. If you're like me and used to listen to Best of College a cappella because you have no life, you probably know that Yale is kind of known for having a frick ton of a cappella groups. I want to say it's somewhere on the order of like 10 or 20. It's a decent number. It's kind of crazy that Yale has so many jocks who are also good at singing that they need a separate a cappella group just for their jocks. Hollow. We are going back to the Daisy the Dog account for this song. It's probably my second favorite Frances Whitney song. It is the song that I simultaneously want the official lyrics and don't want the official lyrics to the most, because the song is called Hollow, but she plays around with how she says the word hollow, and sometimes it's how low. It's very obviously how low, but sometimes it definitely feels more like hollow, like as in hollowed, as in this is hallowed ground. Brendan and I jokingly refer to Orion and Hollow as Frances Whitney's Evermore era, and I think it's a fairly astute comparison if you're asking me. There's a part of the song where it goes, "I can picture myself sitting on the grass outside my house, 8 years old, skateboard helmet on." The way she says skateboard helmet, these are not beautiful words, but they get stuck in my head in a beautiful way. Oh my god. And then she says, "Knees still fresh with blood, hydrogen peroxide, clean me up. Where'd she go?" My delivery is nowhere near as good as hers, but her delivery is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Because these songs are just like her guitar, her voice, in her room, there is something very intimate, something very personal about them. And I don't know, I just feel like I'm there for something that isn't ready yet. And I don't know, it's very exciting.
That I told my mom I'd be careful, and I've been anything but for an anxious girl. You sure got a lot of nerve.
Fact 4. Hollow was actually recorded by Frances alone in her New York City apartment. There are pictures of it online that Brendan dug up because he is way better at that stuff than I am, or at least he has way more like focus on that kind of stuff than I do. And I really think that that goes to show just how much right now, if somebody is talented and they have just a little bit of equipment and just a little bit of know-how, they can really make a genuinely good song. The accessibility of technology and editing software and like instruments and all of these things that you can, if you can't purchase them, you can rent them or you can find friends that have them. It is just making music so much more accessible, and I think that we are only at the beginning of seeing how this changes up the music industry, right? In the past, she would have needed to book studio time for this. She would have needed to be so committed to doing this that she was willing to put a financial expenditure out there, right? There are so many fewer barriers to entry in music nowadays, and it's very exciting to see that. Easy Street. Easy Street has two, like, incredibly good sections. It's got a really good bridge, and it's got a really good, I don't actually know what to call the second part. I'm not sure if it's a second bridge or what, Someone let me know down below. So the first bridge is, when I stop to think about us getting high, hanging out, I can convince myself loving you wasn't hell, and I should wait around for us to grow up, and out of all of our history, then we could finally stop to think about the words that come out of our mouth before the profanity. Oh, what a fantasy, you and me living on Easy Street. That just, I could probably devote an entire video just to breaking down that part of this song alone. And that doesn't even count the second part that I like. I think again it goes back to this concept of this casual relationship and her like kind of going through almost like a very train of thought type. And I think that that's how this came to her, was like as a train of thought type bridge. And I think it really does convey the kind of circular, the cycle of it all, how you kind of do these things again and again and again, either with the same people or with different people, right? And then the part at the end that I love, is it your turn or mine to over-romanticize what's average at best in a perfect light? And then it goes into a little bit of playful dialogue between the two. You're my little evil twin. I will never love again. You say, come back to me. I need you under my skin. This is more about a relationship that is an addiction than a relationship that is legitimate, that is a real relationship. Is it your turn or mine to kneel by the bedside and beg for forgiveness for sins we didn't commit? Sorry is our sacred prayer. We're going nowhere, over and over and over again. What I love is how much of the early structure of those lyrics convey this kind of cyclical, running around in circles, chasing your tail kind of feeling that all gets wrapped up at the very end. It's such marvelous storytelling, and you don't really often see it from an artist that is still at like 30,000 listeners a month on Spotify. She is criminally underrated.
Is it your turn or mine to over-romanticize what's average at best in the perfect light? You're my little evil twin. I will never love again. You say, come back to me. I need you under my skin.
Fact 5. Frances Whitney is a huge Phoebe Bridgers fan, and you can really tell that she's paid a lot of attention to Phoebe's songwriting, especially in songs like Motion Sickness. Phoebe is incredibly good at describing abstract emotions like grief and like anxiety through the physical symptoms that they manifest in our bodies. And that's something that Frances does really well as well. Frances has a line in one of her unreleased songs, I pulled my heart out with my stomach, and it's just, I could probably do an entire video on that sentence, that line alone. But when you use your words to put people in the physical space that your body is in when you're feeling those emotions, it's a really good way of like conveying what you were feeling like and how deep you were feeling it without just being like, I was very anxious, I was very sad. Masterful. Frances is also a huge fan of Taylor Swift. She attended the Eras Tour Seattle on Saturday. She cried during Cruel Summer, as I too would have cried during Cruel Summer. Frances really is all of us. Balcony. Back to Daisy the dog to discuss Balcony. There's this phenomenon where people who are sapphic, even when they are in relationships with men, tend to act like lesbians. At least they tend to treat it like a WLW relationship. For like me, I was always U-hauling to men's houses. But in creative types, you see this like sapphic imagery. Even though the song isn't about a woman, this is very much a song that sapphic people can use towards a female muse in their own life. And specifically, it uses this metaphor of jumping off of a balcony as like a trust fall into a relationship. And I think a lot of people who have been in a sapphic relationship associate like some form of trust or fall or something along those lines associated with this concept of like, are we going to come out and be a publicly out couple, especially if you're dating people who are still somewhat in the closet? It's like, hey, are we going to take the fall? Are we going to take the plunge? Are we going to do something that we can never come back from and commit to this relationship? So balcony, I think the metaphor there really can be applied very well to WLW relationships. And specifically, it starts with this busy intersection, grab my hand as we run across. It's an example of like just an easy, casual level of trust that we give people in our lives, but like we trust these people with our lives and yet they break our hearts. And I love how the song uses this idea of this trust fall, this plunge, this jumping off of a balcony. And like at the beginning of the song, we have this, I don't want to fall any further. I'm picking up speed. I've lost my point of view. But if you looked at me and said, let's push this a little farther, I'd climb over the railing with you. And the metaphor continues through progression as the song goes. Jump off your balcony, it's nothing but gravity. I'm spinning and you're holding me until we reach the concrete. Do you think we'll land on our feet? Then it goes to no chance we land on our feet. No chance we land on our feet, but I feel kind of free. I love when the like structure of the song's narrative kind of fits with like the theme of the song and things like that. And I think Balcony is a really good example of that.
And jump off your balcony. It's nothing but gravity. I'm spinning and you're holding me until we reach the concrete.
Fact 6. Despite being a fairly small artist, Frances does have a small but growing fan community known as the Franatics. And we talk a lot about Frances Whitney and her songs and everything like that, primarily on TikTok, but we have a Discord as well, and I'm going to have that down below. And if you're not following Mile High Brendan, he's kind of like the official, unofficial fan club leader, the president of the Franatics, and he really tries to focus on archiving, so song snippets, clips of her lives, her doing cover songs, all of that sort of stuff. He really tries to keep, because like some of her covers are just so good. She can cover pretty much any song and have it sound good and have it like sound like something that she's made her own in her own sort of way, and I love that. And the Franatics have a bunch of inside jokes and lore and all of that stuff, so if you are a Swiftie especially and you are looking for an artist that has that is beginning to have that, and importantly, we're just starting to have that in a way that like you joining the fandom now, you can really shape what the fandom looks like. And I love that about small artists. Like, if you come from fandoms that are very exclusionary, that are very gatekeepy, that are very unwelcoming, if you find a small artist, you can make the welcoming, non-gatekeepy community that you always wanted to have. And one of the things the Franatics also do is work on collaborative efforts to try and get Frances viewed by other people. More recently, we've been working on what we call the Julian Baker Initiative, which is a plan to kind of get Frances's music in front of the eyes of the managers of Julian Baker. Right now, we are waiting to hear who is going to be confirmed as the openers, especially for California. Hoping, fingers crossed, that she might possibly open for Julian Baker, and that would be something that we kind of had a little bit of hand in contributing to. Holding On, this is going back to the Frances Whitney account, and I'm pretty sure that Holding On was the first single under the current management, and I genuinely think that if she was an established artist and this song was on her second album, it would have blown up. Because the line, "Who is whose muse if we're both rock stars?" Oh my god, that's that line. That line hits. Even if you are not somebody who's in a relationship with another quote-unquote rock star, if you're in a relationship with somebody who believes that they are a rock star or who is a rock star performer at whatever it is that they're good at, you can relate to that line. And I love that this song is really about going to a partner looking for salvation. And this starts with, in all your dreams, the world is ending and you're the one saving us. Like, she is attracted to this, like, this savior type. And I do think growing up in a puritanical Christian structure, especially as a confused queer girl, there is definitely Jesus is kind of like hot, isn't he? Like in a like savior kind of way. But I think you go from there to dating men who are like the saver types, the salvation types. I'm going to save you. I'm looking for a girl who's got a little bit damaged that I'm going to polish up into a precious gemstone, and then I'm going to ignore her. Because these men never marry the woman that they save. They're always looking for a trophy, right? But that's another story. Holding On is one of those songs that I really want to go into in a lot more detail. And really the premise is holding you is easy, but holding on is hard. Like, a lot of her songs are about this situationship style relationship. And I think a lot of people, especially younger people and people who are in relationships with people who are still closeted, are definitely going to relate to this. Like, there's a reason why songs like Good Luck Babe and Casual are popular right now. A lot of people are unhappy with the kind of situationship culture. They are looking for actual security in a relationship, and they are not getting it. And there's a line in this song that really sticks out. "I got nothing to teach you that you don't already know." Because for so many years, I wanted a shared relationship where I teach them and they teach me. And I thought I wanted this relationship with men. But what I found out was a lot of times the men that I was learning things from were also like really deeply insecure. And because they were really insecure, they didn't want to learn from me. They wanted to lord above me. And if they learned from me, that inferred that at least on some levels to them, that I was above them, and they weren't okay with that. And I think when you're in a relationship with a bad person, with a toxic person, with the wrong person, that oftentimes this happens. There is not one single person that I have ever met on this planet that didn't have a single thing to teach me.
Who is whose muse if we're both rock stars? Holding you
2007, Frances was actually connected with her current management team through the rapper Kofi. Frances was actually friends with Kofi, I believe, through her volleyball team, and Kofi was working on a collaboration with a creator named Boslin. In the process of collaborating with Boslin, Kofi met Isaac, showed Isaac Frances' music, and the rest is history. And hopefully this is the big break that gets her the success that she deserves, because it is criminal that she has as few listeners as she has, because she is so remarkably talented. The one nice thing about the unorthodox way that she's found her management team and producers and stuff like that is that she's kind of avoided a lot of the like negativity and bad stuff and legitimate abuse that comes out of LA and the music scene there. Stay up with me. So this song starts with the line, dye my hair blonde so I don't grow older, brown underneath, absent maturity. I love this concept of associating like dyeing your hair and lightening your hair and things like that with youth, right? Because a lot of times when we are young and when we are going out in the sun and stuff regularly, and I'm sure Frances, being a volleyball player, was spending a lot of time out in the sun and her hair was lightening naturally. And it's just like, even though I haven't been in college since 2006, the way that she describes it it brings me back. Fancy degrees, reckless release, filling our lungs with mint-flavored vape. Kiss 'em all now, 'cause you can't once you're married. Invitation downtown, I'll carry you. God, it's such a rush. Please just try it. Bathroom acoustics, Lana's ultraviolence. I'm spilling my secrets, you spilled all your fries. I love this. It's painting this image of this night out with your friends, and maybe you've pre-gamed a little bit too much, so you need to help your friend, downtown and everything. But this idea that this song very much has this feeling of her being aware that this time, her youth, her early 20s is kind of running out, and that, her mid-20s, her late 20s, the things that she is associated with being adult, being older for all of these years, are suddenly upon her, and she's not ready. And I think for so many of us, we spend so many years desperate to grow up, and the moment we finally get there, we're like, oh, yeah, I kind of miss when I was a kid and I didn't have all these responsibilities. Adulthood kind of stinks. And the sad thing is like, adulthood doesn't have to stink. Like, we societally decide that we have to get rid of all of the childish things and we have to do all of these things. Like, we don't. Like, there's no reason why you have to do all of these things when you get older. And this is, again, another example of where it's better to paint the picture, use the imagery of what is around you, than it is to say, oh, it was a night out with the girls, we pre-gamed too much, I had to carry you to the bar. Like, it doesn't have the same sort of vibe as the way she tells the story. I also love the lines, you were a socialist at this time last year, now you're a socialite sipping craft beer, telling him that stock is far too volatile, acquisitions, associates, and models. It's interesting how many of us have this like one identity that we are throughout most of our lives, and then we get to a phase where either because of the person that we're dating or the career field that we're trying to go into, or both, we decide that we need change, we need to be a different person, we need to be the person that can be successful in that realm. For me, and I think one of the reasons I relate to this song so much, for me when I was about this age, I was realizing that there was definitely a difference in the way that lesbians were treated in IT versus the way straight women were treated in IT, and I was not going to be treated like a lesbian in IT. And that was when I really started putting on a mask, putting on a facade, fronting as somebody that I'm not. And I think a lot of people, they front as a person that they are not because they believe it is what they have to, they believe that's what adulting is. Like, so much of adulting is putting on a facade and pretending to be more capable than you are. And we just normalize this idea of adulthood being putting on this almost this coat of grown-upness and entering the world as a grown-up person. And regardless of what our early convictions are, like, we can be a socialist as kids, but like once we have it beaten into us, you need to have a career, you need to make money, you need to survive, you need to have a retirement fund, you need to do all of these things, you need to have money. It beats out of us these natural convictions that we have, which, because most of us don't innately grow up wanting to make money unless we come from like a Taylor Swift sort of family where our birth announcement was a freaking stock certificate. Unless you come from a family that really like pushes it into you from a very young age that you need to prioritize money, it's not natural. Like, most children want to prioritize like nature and having fun with friends and, music and singing and dancing and stuff like this. All of these things we kind of forget how to do as we grow up. 23 sounded so old when I was little. Now I feel like a kid playing hide and seek. Dude, same at 40. I'm 41. It sounded like goddamn ancient, and I'm still trying to figure this out. But I'm not pretending anymore.
Fancy degrees, reckless release, filling our lungs with mint flavored pain. Kiss them all now, 'cause you can't once you're married. Invitation downtown, I'll carry you.
Fact 8. When Frances played volleyball, her number was 23 as an homage to LeBron James. She's actually learned a lot from LeBron in her, like, dedication, her values, her belief in, like, putting in the work and working out and things like that. A lot of that comes from LeBron and his influence in her. And one of Frances's first brushes with virality was when she became LeBron Girl. This is according to Yale News. A San Francisco native, Frances is one of the Bay Area's lone LeBron fans. In February 2014, after James's game-winning three-pointer propelled the Miami Heat to a win over the Golden State Warriors and ignited an uproar of jeers from the home crowd, he embraced Frances, sporting a white Heat jersey in a hug that soon went viral. Since then, they have exchanged nods and waves when James plays at Oakland's Oracle Arena. And this is the video of this. I love her facial expression at the end because, like, as somebody who is neurodivergent, like, when I'm very excited, my face does not always show it. Like, sometimes I get, like, so overwhelmed that I forget to emote, and, like, I can tell from her eyes that she's, like, excited, but also, like, I relate to not being able to express it as well as I would like to. Out of the Blue, that's on her Daisy Dog account again. And I think every song from here on out is on Daisy Dog. I love the lyrics of this song so much. It is so good. I'd like you to kiss me. Don't know how else to say it. I just direct, straight to the point. And it gives me the vibe of her spending, like, a couple of hours, like, I need to figure out exactly how to say I'd like you to kiss me before finally saying I'd like you to kiss me. Don't know how else to say it. That's headcanon. I don't know if that's true, but in my head, it is true. Then this next part is just ruler of my dream world through undemocratic election. It's the 5th year of your term and I'm still stuffing your ballot boxes, but now you're with my real life politics. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. If somebody called me the ruler of their dream world, oh my God, I would marry them, I think. And I love this, like, through undemocratic election. Like, she had no control in this. She doesn't want to be in a situation where this person rules her dream world, but she ain't got no say in it. And now because this person rules her dream world, it's screwing up her real world too. And this song is so much about, like, the level that we will go through for the people that we think are for us, the people that we think we're in love with, the people we think are going to be, like, our savior and what have you. We are so hell-bent on making that work that we will do it to the exception of all parts of ourselves. And this is something that she's illustrated in her other songs as well, like cutting off pieces of herself so she won't be too much for the person that she's with. When I call you up out of the blue, it's not innocent. And if you called me out of the blue, I would do anything. And then in the end, we have this underwater in a spaceship dancing to our love song. She's underwater, she's in an environment that is inherently unhospitable to her life, and she is not in the right protective vehicle. She's not in the right protective equipment. Like, if you're underwater in a spaceship, you may perceive yourself as being safe, but it's not going to be a situation that you thrive under. It's not going to be an ideal situation. It may just be the bare minimum of survival. And there's also this element of alienation, right? Spaceship, and it's interesting to me how many times queer women, whether they mean to or not, use space and sci-fi and spaceship and abduction metaphors to relate to parts of the queer experience or parts of being alienated from the cis heteronormative experience. And I kind of wonder if that's what she's doing here. But there's really just this underlying theme of not having her needs met and trying to minimize her needs down to nothing and not being in situations that are thrival situations, they're just survival situations.
Ruler of my dream world through undemocratic election. It's the 5th year of your term, and I'm still stuffing your ballot boxes. But now you're fucking with my real life politics.
Fact number 9, Frances is obsessed with Taco Bell, and it's become somewhat of an inside joke amongst her fans. Fairly recently, she was in a TikTok from one of those guys that does, like, on-the-street interviews with various figures, and she was interviewed about her Taco Bell. I will put that video in here. Sugar-free. This is one of the last Frances Whitney songs that I listened to, but one of the ones that I, like, very rapidly became a fast favorite. Oh, they're all my favorites, though. Ugh. The name admittedly didn't stick out to me much at first, but then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, oh, sugar-free. It's like not devoid of sweetness, but it's also like, it's guilt-free, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same satisfaction. There's also like the reference for like relationships and like this concept of sugar, like give me some sugar, and also like sugar daddy, sugar baby relationships. There's a lot of different ways that this can be interpreted, but one of the primary ways that I'm interpreting this is that it is seemingly guilt-free, but maybe not necessarily as guilt-free as you thought, and it's probably not as satisfying, and it's not actually the thing you want. It's just something to fill the void for a time. And the lyrics, I like to sleep in your bedroom at night, where the mess on the floor is all yours and not mine. It's kind of presenting this relationship as also like an escape from the world that she has created for herself. Like, I have all of this mess at my house and it's mine, and I avoid that by sleeping at your house where the mess on the floor is yours, and at least it's not something that I have to worry about. I like to wake up close to your heart even though it's not mine. And I love this like concept of like wanting to be away from some things that are yours, but wanting to have something be yours that is not yours. At the parties, nobody knows what we do in your dorm room. I stand with my friends, you with yours. Different worlds, but you like it like that. They're really showing this like, we can't socially be together. So what is this? Is this like a secret, hidden queer relationship? Is this an infidelity situation? Is she cheating on somebody else with this person? Is this person cheating on somebody else with her? I don't honestly remember who Brennan thinks the muse for this song is, so I don't honestly have context on that. But again, even if it isn't written about a woman, it is a very true to the queer experience. And I do think that, like myself as a closeted lesbian, a lot of times I was in secret relationships with men because I didn't necessarily want to be in like a full relationship where there would be expectations, like me eventually wanting to marry them. Like, admittedly, like when I was closeted, I primarily wanted like men for support at work. Like if I had a man who I was sleeping with at work, he would protect me from all the men that I didn't want to sleep with at work. And in some cases, it was beneficial for that man to be married to another woman, so I only have to put up with them to a limited extent for my own safety. And then you give me that sugar-free touch, and we lay down somewhere between lust and love, and yes, I know there's no such thing as us. I also really love this line, and I know you and me will never be something. I don't know what I know anymore, but I don't want to know what you do with those girls. It's this very like, I want to know, but I don't want to know. It's like very, she's very well articulating this feeling of confusion over this relationship, and then at the very end, she's got these very soft like, uh-ohs, like, this is not going to go the way you want. You know it's not going to go the way you want.
At the parties, nobody knows what we do in your dorm room. I stay with my friends and you with yours, different worlds, but you like it like that.
Final fact, throughout this video, I've kind of been treating the songs on Daisy the Dog as though they are like the secret Frances Whitney songs. However, she's got a lot of songs that she has written and like performed little snippets of on lives or what have you, or that she's performed at a gig, and Brendan has snippets a lot of those. I think we have like 20 or some songs. And I think sometimes when you get into a new artist, there's like never a guarantee that they will release any more music, that the rest of their music is going to be good. Is this album just a fluke? What's the situation? And with Frances, there's like guaranteed to be good music coming for a while, because she's got a lot of good music that we've heard snippets of the stuff that's in creation and things like that. It's just so good. She's such a talented performer. She's so talented in so many regards. She's incredibly good at like verbally encapsulating things in just such a relatable way. Like, she's just so strong in so many different categories, and like most artists are like good at lyrics or good at guitar or good at singing. They're like not good at like all of it. They're not the whole package. And also, like, she just genuinely seems like a really cool person, and I think that's why we want to see her succeed so much, because she seems like the type of person that deserves success, like the type of person that the industry often overlooks because she's just quietly and rather humbly doing her own thing. Like I said elsewhere in this video, I am happy to do different videos on Frances where I go deeper into each of her songs. If you have specific songs you want me to focus on, please let me know down below. This is not going to be the last time you hear of her for certain. I think it's only going to be me talking about her more and more as she gets more and more popular popular. Also, I talk about other pop music things, primarily Taylor Swift, and analyzing Taylor Swift through the lens of herself as her own muse. And I also just discuss things about sapphic life, closeting, commentary on current events, that type of stuff. I'm sure I have some other video that you'll like if you watch this one all the way to the end. I'm still a very small creator myself, so if you like this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out a lot, and have a wonderful day.